If you think you know everything about vampires, think again. Vlad the Impaler is arguably the most famous bloodsucker in the world. But while Bram Stoker's novel Dracula and later cinematic adaptations have become synonymous with vampires everywhere, these stories are just a tiny part of the much larger lore. Indeed, while some of the specifics of Dracula's story are unique to Bram Stoker's novel, there are other elements which were taken from pre-existing folklore. And while Vlad the Impaler's record has some similarities to the character, they don't necessarily match up perfectly either. But what if I told you that there are even older and more horrific bloodsuckers lurking in our collective past? They might not be household names like Dracula, but these monsters are far more brutal. These are 5 ancient vampire legends you've never heard of. Everyone knows Dracula, but what about the terrifying vampires that came before him? From the Romanian Strigoi to the Greek Vrykolakas and the Slavic Upir, ancient vampire myths reveal monsters older and more horrifying than fiction. Join us as we count down 5 vampire legends that history tried to bury. The Strigoi was one of the first vampires in recorded history. The legend of the Strigoi is believed to have originated in the remote areas of Romania long before the events that inspired Bram Stoker to write Dracula. It was an evil spirit that used a corpse as a vessel, causing it to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. Unlike the aristocratic vampire of Stoker's tale, the Strigoi was typically a poor peasant who had died an unnatural death. The Strigoi would then possess the body, causing it to swell, rise, and drink the blood of family members, causing them to become ill or even drive them insane. This type of vampire was even said to leave the home at night to feast on the blood of animals, returning before sunrise to hide in the coffin until the next night. So it was thought that the only way to prevent a Strigoi from rising was to keep the body tightly sealed in the coffin with a lock or stone. This practice likely influenced the tradition of placing stones on the chests of the deceased, which is still practiced in some parts of Eastern Europe to this day. The Vrykolakas was a creature of Greek folklore that shares many similarities with a modern conception of a vampire. According to Greek folklore, the Vrykolakas was a blood-sucking demon that used human corpses as hosts, causing them to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. Like the Strigoi, the Vrykolakas was believed to be attracted to corpses that had died an unnatural death, such as those who had been murdered or died by suicide. The Vrykolakas was said to enter the body through the mouth or nose, causing the corpse to bloat and rise. It would then drain the blood of family members, causing them to become weak and ill. If the Vrykolakas was not driven out of the body, it would eventually kill its host. To prevent this from happening, families would perform a ritual known as the Trisanos, which involved placing a small incision in the chest of the deceased to allow the soul to escape. The origins of the Vrykolakas can be traced back to ancient Greece, where it was known as the Impuser. The word Impuser means blood-sucking female demon. In Greek mythology, the Impuser was a type of succubus that preyed on the blood of mortals. During the Middle Ages, the Greek Orthodox Church attempted to suppress the belief in the Vrykolakas seeing it as a threat to the sanctity of the dead and the well-being of the living. However, despite these efforts, the legend of the Vrykolakas persisted and evolved over time, eventually becoming a prominent figure in Balkan folklore. The Upir. In Slavic folklore, the Upir was a malevolent spirit that used a corpse as a vessel, causing it to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. Unlike the Strigoi and the Vrykolakas, which were typically associated with sudden and violent deaths, the Upir was said to be attracted to corpses that had died a slow and lingering death. Once the Upir had chosen its victim, it would enter the body through the mouth, causing the corpse to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. To prevent the Upir from rising, families would take extreme measures, such as sewing the mouth and nose of the deceased shut, or placing a stake through the heart. Despite these precautions, the Upir was a persistent force, and those who lived in fear of its rising would often turn to local healers or holy men for protection. Over time, the legend of the Upir evolved, and in some tellings, it became associated with grave robbing and cannibalism. Some people even came to believe that the Upir was the soul of a murdered person, trapped in the body of the corpse and seeking revenge on those who had killed them. Whatever the case may be, the legend of the Upir is a chilling reminder of the lengths to which people will go to protect themselves from the forces of darkness. Now, all of these early vampires were evil spirits, which makes sense given that they predate modern scientific understanding of the human body. For hundreds of years, people simply didn't understand what caused bodies to decay after death. Thus, they imagined that there must be a supernatural cause. So now let's look at 3 ancient vampire legends that feature more monstrous creatures. We start with the Fengguang. Although vampires are generally associated with European folklore, similar beliefs can be found in many different cultures around the world. One example is the Fengguang, a creature from Chinese mythology that is said to have the appearance of a human but possesses certain animal-like characteristics. According to legend, the Fengguang is a shapeshifter that can transform itself into various animals, including a fox, a cat, a dog, and a pig. When in animal form, the Fengguang is said to live among humans and feed on their life energy, causing them to become ill or even die. In some cases, the Fengguang is said to have assumed human form and married a human only to drink their blood when they sleep. Because of this, Fengguang were seen as evil spirits that used human bodies as vessels and caused them to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. As a result, people took great care to seal the bodies of the deceased tightly to prevent the Fengguang from entering. Moving to the Empire of the Rising Sun, we find the Gashad. Like the Fengguang, the Gasha Dokuro is an entity from Japanese folklore that feeds on the life energy of humans, causing them to become ill or even die. The term Gasha Dokuro literally translates to bone-sucking demon. In Japanese folklore, these demons are said to enter a person's body through the mouth and consume their blood and internal organs, leaving behind only an empty shell. This process is said to cause the victim's skin to turn pale and their eyes to become sunken, giving them an emaciated appearance. Once the Gashadokuro has finished consuming its victim, it is said to emerge from the mouth and take flight, shrieking loudly. People who witnessed this sight believed that it meant the soul of the victim had been consumed, and there was no hope for their return. Gashadokuro were also said to be attracted to places of death and suffering, such as battlefields and execution grounds, where they could feast on the souls of the recently deceased. Those who lived in fear of the Gashadokuro would often take precautions, such as carrying protective charms or avoiding places where the creatures were known to congregate. Finally, we come to perhaps the most frightening and certainly the most prolific type of vampire in mythology, the Lamia. While the word Lamia is sometimes used as a synonym for succubus, in fact, Lamias are actually demons that use both male and female human hosts. In Greek mythology, the Lamia was a type of demon that preyed on the blood of mortals. These demons were said to have the ability to shapeshift, often taking on the form of beautiful women or innocent children. Lamias were also known for their voracious appetites, which they satisfied by draining the blood of their victims. During the Middle Ages, the Greek Orthodox Church attempted to suppress the belief in Lamias, seeing them as a threat to the sanctity of the dead and the well-being of the living. However, despite these efforts, the legend of the Lamia persisted and evolved over time, eventually becoming a prominent figure in Balkan folklore. In some tellings, Lamias were said to use their blood-sucking abilities to harm their victims directly, causing them to become ill or even die. In other tellings, Lamias were said to use their blood-sucking abilities as a way to obtain immortality. They were said to lure young, unsuspecting men into the wilderness, where they would drain their blood and use it to rejuvenate themselves. In either case, Lamias were seen as dangerous and evil creatures that should be avoided at all costs. And that's the end of today's episode. Do you know of any other historical vampires that we missed? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.